Welcome to Podcasts, recorded live at the Center for Spiritual Living in Portland, Oregon. We have many programs, classes, and workshops developed just for our online audience. To find out more, go to our website at cslportland.org and look under the Online tab. Our mission is to open hearts, ignite minds, and make a difference. If you'd like to support our center and its video podcast, you can donate online at cslportland.org/donate. Allow us to become part of your extended spiritual community. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are most welcome at the Center for Spiritual Living.
Hi, Portland CSL. Nice to see you. I was out at Camp Cedar Ridge this weekend with some of your congregants who are still there. I left early to come be with you. If you don't know, we Centers for Spiritual Living have bought our own camp for the first time in the history of the organization, and it's right down the road in Vernonia, Oregon, from you guys. So way cool. And what we were doing this weekend, it's their 1-year anniversary, so they've been open for a year under CSL's ownership. And we were restoring a labyrinth, a huge labyrinth, that we originally built 15 years ago when I was the camp director there for teen camp. And Larry Steele, who owned the camp at that point, and loved us, I said, I've had this vision for a long time about building this labyrinth. Would you guys like to do that as a service project this year at camp? And I'm like, sure. Turns out it was the second largest labyrinth in the world. It was huge. It goes around trees. It's huge. So, but over the years, it's fallen into disrepair because, it was more basketball camps than it was, church camps or spiritual groups that were there. And so now that we own it, we want our labyrinth back. So it's about 50 of us this weekend and rebuilt it. Very, very moving for me since I was part of the original crew. But we have a couple of the people who are now in their 30s, who were teens back then, who joined us. And it was a way cool weekend. So you've got some people there who are sort of your front runners. They're telling me how cool you guys are. So I'm like, all right. But apparently I didn't impress them enough to have them leave early to come see me. But they do love you. So this whole month, the themes within Centers for Spiritual Living is about shadows and light. And I love shadow work. So I'm very delighted to spend some time talking with you about it today. What is our shadow? It's the part of us that we bury, like stick in the basement. And it tends to be the part of us that we don't want to own. Like we have a public face. This is who I am, and all your social skills out there with your public face. And there's that private part of you that probably not even your partner knows. Well, they might know because they live with it, but that you don't talk about it. You just keep it stuffed down there. So the idea of doing shadow work is to find ways to pull those old stories out of the basement and bring them into the light of day. I know, you might be saying, why on earth would I do that? They belong there, they can stay there as far as I'm concerned. Because those things run us in many, many ways. Those old stories that are part of of how we became who we are, but they tend to come out of the basement sometimes, just grab up and do something stupid. In my opinion, like get sarcastic or put somebody down. You're like, where did that come from? That's not. That's not who I am. That's the shadow. So I'm reminded of the character Dorian Gray that Oscar Wilde story is about, who is a gorgeous Adonis young man, incredibly handsome, young, vibrant, just a little full of himself, and. His very good friend, who was so enamored with how handsome he was, painted his picture. And as the story goes, he made a pact with the devil that he could stay young and handsome forever, and that all of the aging would go onto this painting. And so, of course, he put the painting in the darkest corner of the basement, like, all right, that's gone. And continued to gallivant around the world in the way that vain young men sometimes do. And have a great time, just being forever young and handsome and, amazing. But every once in a while, in just the quiet of his own experience, he would go peek a look at the picture. And, as some time went by, he got a little belly on him, and, he got a little gray hair or receding hairline. And then, a few years later, he looks at it again, and his face is getting kind of wrinkled. That pouch is getting a little bigger, and there's, like, no hair. But that, as long as he could keep it stuffed away, he could keep being this other person. But there's a part of him privately that knew, that's part of me too. So that's what we're going to talk about. That's part of me too. Whatever I've got hiding back there, what you've got hidden back there, that's the part we want to start rejoining that, because we're not young and virulent forever. We're who we are. And to me, the beauty of science of mind is that we are forever on this path to become more and more conscious, more and more present as human beings. That's the work. That's what we're here for. So what are the kinds of things that we tend to push away? Early stories, early life experiences, uncomfortable feelings, the way that, if you really let yourself remember some of those childhood ouch moments when you really disappointed a parent, or you got huge disapproval for, putting your sexy little self out there and, pretending you were like somebody. They're like, no, don't do that. And those are the things that we tended as children to stuff away. And depending on what our family was like, we may have just kept them stuff. I had a sexy little girl, wasn't going to fly in my family ever. So we'll just keep that one gone for a long time. But it's also, that those secret parts of us come out as habits. So chronic insomnia, addictions, overeating, those are things that live in the shadowland. So I may have this like incredibly beautiful, prosperous, joyful life, and everybody goes, man, she just got it made. But secretly, I'm eating ice cream in the middle of the night to just stuff down those feelings a little bit because they're starting to bubble up. Familiar to anybody? I know you don't have to confess, but I've been there. The denial of those parts of us runs really deep. It tends to, so if we're not going to ever access that, we're never opening that basement door, ever, but it's there. So it tends to come out as sometimes being like incredibly sarcastic. Just out of nowhere, you're just like, you look terrible in that. Now, I'm sorry, where did that come from? I didn't mean to say that, but you do. Or we're critical, or we do something impulsive. When you perhaps have known somebody that just looked like a family person, high integrity, close family, goes out and has an affair out of nowhere. And you're like, didn't see that. That's the shadow. There's a story that is buried deep in that person's history that says that at some point I'm going to destroy everything by going out and doing something that I know will hurt the people I love the most. Was it because your dad did that? Was it, where did that come from? It can come from wherever it comes from. Sometimes it comes from just stuff we made up. Do you remember when you were 5, how you saw the world might not be how you would see the same events today. So the decisions that you made back then may or may not have had an impact. May or may not have been actually what happened, but they're the story that you created and stuffed down into that like deep history. So to live a conscious life in the present, I hate to tell you this, but the work is to just start romancing every one of those little shadows out into the light, because it's in the light that we heal. So however much I don't want to do that, I want more than that to be a conscious, present human being. I want to live my life fully. I want to feel my feelings fully. I don't want to shut down and, be numb and not do those things, because that's where the shadow part takes me. So it's not, it generally doesn't work. Let me just say this. This is the people who do shadow work, which is, therapists that are, it's a Jungian model that do this kind of work. People who are doing shadow work generally will advise you not to just yank it out of the basement and throw it out there. Like, now I'm going to be this. It's more of a romancing thing. It's more of a it's so safe. It's okay. It's safe to be out here. Stick your toe out here just like you would do a really shy puppy. Just come out. It's okay. It's okay. Step another one more step. It's okay. It's okay. How do we do that? We do that by, first of all, let me back up for a minute. The first of all is to recognize when something shows up that is a shadow. Because it's been unconscious for so long for most of us that to just start noticing I don't know where that came from. Maybe that's a shadow. And then just look at it. Just look at it. And that's kind of the hardest part when you're used to not looking at it. Just look at it. Somebody else is joining us here, I think. And have some compassion and empathy for the you that claimed that shadow space. Because sometimes we have come from violence or from neglect or from not just a family that was not attuned to our particular uniqueness in the world. They were like, no, don't be that, be this. You need to make better grades than that. All of those things. So it's when we start looking at it and owning it, then we can give some compassion to that part of us that came from that history, that has that story. And very slowly bring it out and allow yourself to look at it. And just look at it and look at what its effect has been in your life. Like this story for me shows up over and over again. Like, how is it that I've been in all of these relationships and every one of them ends the same way? Shadow, maybe? Those kinds of things. I'll tell you, my own story is, my dad was a Baptist preacher. So I come by this honestly. But, I had grown up in the same little town in central Louisiana since I was, most of my life. And one night at supper, my dad said, "God's called me to the great Northwest." So we're moving, across the country where most of the people I live with thought cowboys and Indians were still active. And we're moving to the great Northwest. And I remember, before dinner was over, I was just like, excuse me, but God didn't call me. I'm supposed to stay here. God called you. And my dad, of course, is in the patriarch he was. He was like, no, God calls the whole family. All right, we go. And the experience for me was excruciating. I was 13 years old. I had the same friends my whole life. And I get ripped away from that. I'm in this town. Do you guys know Richland, Washington? Anybody know Richland? To the Tri-Cities, it's in the southeastern Washington, but it's the home of Hanford Atomic Energy Works. So we moved there, and there were, at that time, and possibly still, more PhDs per square mile than any place in the country. And I don't know if you know Central Louisiana, but it ain't that. And, my family's educated. I'm smart. It wasn't about competing. It was just a social structure. They were also very well paid, which the Baptist preacher wasn't. And I just sort of looked around me, and I felt like I was on a foreign planet. I had no idea how to compete. And we moved in the summer, so I had 3 months to be completely alone before I faced trying to make friends. And that whole first experience of sitting at the lunchroom table by yourself for a couple of weeks because you don't have any friends. It's that cut really deep in my little psyche. And actually, we had moved earlier than that. I don't even remember when we moved before I was 5, but I think that pattern was present in my life. And going away to college, had a little bit of the same experience. I ended up going in summer school to the University of Washington from Richland. I had friends who would be there in September, but when I got there, I had no soul in Seattle. So those kind of experiences sort of left me we're just going to stay planted right here. Well, along comes ministry, And I knew early in the call to ministry that I was supposed to go somewhere else. I knew that my ministry was not there. I don't know how I knew that. I just knew that I'm going somewhere else. And I fought it like crazy. Didn't understand why, but I really didn't want to go. And then in my senior year of ministerial school, by the way, Reverend Larry and I went to school together. So it's like, our dean, Reverend Alice from that campus, had just taken the job at Home Office, and she said, I want you to come be the youth and family director for Home Office. First of all, I haven't graduated yet. And in the world of youth ministry, maybe after 10 or 15 years, you might get a job like that. So it's like, it's the highest job you can get in this organization working with kids. And I'm like, don't you need to advertise this or something? So, oh, no, your resume will hold. I have worked with kids my whole life. So out of nowhere, we were to Sillamar, and I go talk to my husband. I was like, sit down. Would you be willing to move to Burbank? And he was like, Burbank? Because the whole time I'd been in ministerial school, I had this vision my ministry was going to be in Amsterdam. Young culture, just international focus. I was going to go to Amsterdam. So Walter looks at me and he goes, Linda, Burbank, Amsterdam, can you see those are not the same? But the truth is, either one of them would have freaked me out because I have this thing in my closet stashed away about wherever I go, I'm going to be completely alone and terrified, and I'm not going to have a place to be. That's the shadow in me that I have had to continue to pull out. I retired to Ashland after my ministry was in Berkeley. Same thing, why is that so hard? Other people let's go, and I'm just like. So I think the work for me is in remembering that experience when I was 13, remembering how terrified that little girl was and giving her some love. I can see that. And I know, because I work with kids all the time, that parents aren't necessarily thinking about what this experience is going to be like for this child because they've got their own, they got to sell a house, they got to start a new job or whatever. That's also there, but kind of in the lower category of priorities, but not for a kid. So anyway, all of that is, if once we start identifying oh, this is why I have a feeling I'm terrified. This shouldn't be terrifying. This should be like a celebration. This is a big deal. Wow, I got that job. But it doesn't feel that way. That's when it's time to bring out the shadow and just say, this is not about this. This is about something old and stuck in me. When we bring it out in the light, we can start to heal it. And when in just that way, in just understanding this is where this came from and look how I'm playing it out. So the next step after you do that is to think about when does that feeling of terror show up? And if I can recognize it before it starts to act out in the way that I can, you have the opportunity to make a different choice about what it is I do and how I do it. So if you can recognize it in advance, which you only after you've had to dance with each other a little bit, to really see this. Oh, I'm about to do that thing that I've done before. I don't want to do that. Let's think about this before I go saying something I shouldn't say or hurting somebody's feelings. In Science of Mind, we talk a lot about wholeness. We talk about oneness, that we are one, that we are whole. And right at its core, this is why this work is so important, because we're one. We're not ourself and our shadow. All that's us. It's as much as I try to separate it and push it away, you're not me. It's me. All of that is who I am. So I just want to share with you the Science of Mind perspective. So if you just open your textbook. You didn't bring your textbook? Well, lucky for you, I did. This is Ernest Holmes, and it's on page 463, second paragraph. You want to read it when you get home. This is essential Ernest Holmes. It's at the most core teaching of what we teach in Science of Mind. Life is one perfect wholeness. The universe is a unit. God is one. It is impossible for man to feel separated from the Spirit without feeling lost and in want. It is only as we live in conscious union with the Spirit and consciously let it work through us that we really live. He said this in 1926. He's like, he's one smart dude. But that's really the essence of what it is we're teaching in Science of Mind. And I just want to give you some warnings about it, because we have a tendency, because we do believe that, we say that, it's part of your, call to your new minister, is that message of wholeness and oneness. So we have a tendency to go, it's all God, it's all good. You heard that before? So it's, whatever it is that's showing up, it's like, I know, this thing is happening, and it's, I've lost my job, or I'm getting separated, whatever. It's okay. It's all God. It's all good. Ultimately, that is true, but it's mostly a bypass. It's mostly a not being willing to look at the shadow that is showing up in our lives at that moment. And I just want to invite you to go deeper. Take a deeper dive into your own consciousness to bring that story forward so you can heal it. So you can actually and oh, by the way, we tend to find best friends, partners, siblings that match our story, so that, we intertwine our story with their story, and we just get, codependent all over the place. So it's so that that my partner knows my triggers, and just in a moment when he's feeling particularly feisty or upset, just takes a little swipe, like, oh, I know that'll get her. Is that dress tight? Is that dress getting tight on you? Yeah, and then I'm gone. So we tend to do that. And so I encourage you to go deeper yourself. And if this is ringing true to you, and I see some of you nodding the whole time I'm talking, so I know it's landing on a few people. If this is true for you, I really encourage you to work with a practitioner or work with a therapist, particularly a Jungian therapist that understands doing shadow work. But it can be helpful to have somebody holding the high watch for you and guiding you through, because this is sticky, hard stuff. And so worth it. I just can't tell you, so worth it, because the other side of it, there is an ability between you and your partner to have an open, honest conversation that doesn't go flying off into something else. You know what I'm talking about. That allows you to build a healthy relationship. Also within your own self-esteem, that I'm not going to go home and eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's, or, just crawl in bed and not get out the next day. Drink way too much, whatever those things are that are the ways that I keep stuffing it back. Wouldn't it be a relief to just let go of all of that? It comes with some hard work. But we have an ally. We have an ally. Spirit has our back all the way. We know this, we teach this, but it's absolutely true. In that church of my childhood that I left, they would say, you got to lay it on the altar. You know what that means? This is like old-timey Southern Christian talk. But it means that I will take this thing that I don't know how to deal with, and I give it up to God. I just say, take it. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to work with it. I don't know where to go. And I am willing to receive guidance. And then you have to do that. You have to actually be willing to receive guidance and do it. But God is there. That infinite presence, that thing that is, we're being breathed by something greater than ourselves, that divine essence, will not leave us alone if we ask for its presence to be there. What does that do? That gives me an ally when I want to go, I can't do this. This is too hard, I can't. That presence of God is the thing that will stand beside us and allow us to keep looking at the things that are hard to look at. And if that seems like an undoable task to you, get a practitioner, because we spend years training, don't we, in how to do just that, how to hold the high watch and see the absolute truth of you while you muck through all the pieces. I just want to say, I know what I'm saying is hard work, And it is so worth doing. I just invite you to dive as deep as you got to dive into. Let's pray. Infinite Spirit, that which is everywhere present, I know that infinite presence of God is in, around, and through this place. In, around, through, and as each of us. Within, without, only one thing. Only God, only good. And so I claim that oneness. And that oneness with the infinite includes all of the pieces of who I am. All of the things that I have been so reluctant to own or to deal with or to let anybody ever see. God is in all of that. And so I know that in my perfect expression of who I am, I know this for myself, I know this for each person here, in that infinite expression, there is a wholeness and a peace that is available. And so I call on that for each of us, the courage to move forward and the peace that's available at the end of the journey. I'm so grateful to know that that's the truth. I'm so grateful to know that having spoken this word, it must of necessity manifest, for that is the nature of the law. For that I say, thank you, God. And so it is.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you happen to be in the Portland, Oregon area, we'd love to have you visit in person. The Portland Center for Spiritual Living is located at 6211 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Our inspirational service is at 11 a.m. every Sunday. We also have many programs, classes, and workshops developed just for our online audience. To find out more, go to our website at cslportland.org and look under the Online tab. We have a variety of content dedicated specifically for our podcast listeners. Our mission is to open hearts, ignite minds, and make a difference. If you'd like to support our center and its podcasts, you can donate online at cslportland.org/donate. Our website is also the place to learn more about what's going on at the center or to contact us. Allow us to become part of your extended spiritual community. Wherever you are in your spiritual journey, you are most welcome at the Center for Spiritual Living.